Hello again everybody and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Today we're at Santos Dumont Airport, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil to take a look at the brand new black square Beechcraft Baron steam gauge overhaul, releasing very soon to Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's going to be made available on the JustFlight website, the links for which will be in the description down below. And we're going to explore some of its features and discuss the similarities as well it shares with the Beechcraft Bonanza, as well as some of its own unique features within this particular product too. Hit like and subscribe down below, and of course share your thoughts in the comments below, as well as I'd love to know what you guys think as well to the new product. It comes with several aircraft all in one package. This one particularly is turbocharged and pressurized with wingtip fuel tanks. But you can also make your own configuration too. It's got the hot swappable radio stack that we know and enjoy from the other Black Square products so far, and currently is the most advanced turbocharger simulation in Microsoft Flight Simulator, with the turbocharger sounds reflecting the actual simulated turbine RPM. The pressurization and the door seal system is simulated too in this particular aircraft if you certainly choose the pressurized model. And it also therefore comes with 7 failures, which could be triggered during any of your flights with the aeroplane. And door seals themselves help to reduce the cabin noise. It's compatible with the TDS GTN-XI 750, the PMS 50 GTN 750, and the working title GNS 530. It comes with some really nice custom sounds, some of which are simulated inside and outside the aircraft, and one of those that I want to have a look at today and show you guys are the custom sounds for the wingtip fuel transfer pumps. Again, it's part of the wider fuel simulation, but by turning either of these pumps on or off, you can hear the pumps in action when they're in use. So we're situated with a drone camera on the right wingtip. Let's turn the pumps on and listen from the inside. And from the outside, you can just about hear it clicking away. As before, all the circuit breakers are pullable, so if you're flying at night and all of a sudden your cabin lights fail, you might find the circuit breaker has popped, or you could pop them and simulate an emergency as well. Some of these are useful. We'll look at them later on in the flight, for example when we're using the emergency gear deployment. And the window is animated as well, helping you increase sounds. Unfortunately, they can't open the doors because of limitations with the default Asobo model that is used for the aeroplane. One really cool feature included in this particular add-on is heat being made available from a combustion heater in the engine compartments. That means that during colder ops, winter ops, higher altitude ops, where you might want to preheat the cabin in advance of your flight, you can switch on the external gasoline heater before engines start. With that though, again, another feature which could cause carbon monoxide problems, or indeed other failures as well, which you would then have to tackle whilst flying the aeroplane. Similar to other aircraft too, mathematically accurate VOR and ADF signal attenuation and noise degradation is a feature within the product. Certainly flying mountainous regions out of line of sight from VORs or NDBs, you might find the signal becomes weaker or more inaccurate as you sort of progress around valleys and things like that. It also comes with an interactive checklist that Black Square have developed, full of emergency procedures for the aeroplane and all the checks you might need between engine start all the way through to shutdown and securing. There are 3 different ways to start the engine based on whether it's cold, hot or flooded, and various other emergency checks that you might need to deal with and consider using during flight too. It's a really good way of learning the aeroplane and learning the flows, so I highly recommend using it to begin with until you get more confident, more familiar with the aircraft. Your hot swappable radio stacks are at the flick of a switch once again, and you can choose your preference, and state saving will remember that for the next time you fly. And your carbon monoxide detector is on the right hand side of the aeroplane too. something useful that you might need to be made aware of. Okay, so the engines are both on and fired up. We flooded the engines actually accidentally, so I had to use the flooded engine checklist and give the throttles a bit of a wiggle as well to get the engines fired up, as you would expect in real life as well. So actually a really good simulation, and you need to learn the aeroplane, learn its quirks, and understand how the engines work to get the most out of this too. Really enjoyable. After starting checks then, lights as required. Weather radar is off, or standby is fine as well. We'll leave it off for now, and then the avionics master switch can go on. Bringing the aircraft to life. Cabin air and heat as desired. Currently, with the environmental simulation, the cabin temperature is high, so we're going to leave the cabin, the pilot air on. We could also look at turning on the air conditioning as well and popping the blowers on to low, and that should help bring that temperature down. When it does, the red light for high will extinguish. Mixture, we can lean those for taxi. Parking brake release and then brakes check. So we'll set the aeroplane up for our little journey. Around us here at Santos Dumont, Rio de Janeiro, there are a couple of ADFs or NDBs that we can tune. So 415 being one of them at Rio de Janeiro. And with that we can use the Bendix KR87 to tune that frequency, 415. Like so, we can pop it into the active box there too. We could also tune, if we wish, the Galileo VOR in the nav box up here, 1123. Of course, depends on what you want, but you could also tune that into, for example, the GNS 530 module if you wanted to use that instead, or that KX155, that old school radio stack as well. So prior to takeoff, one thing that we are going to want to do is complete some run-up checks, and for that we're going to position the aircraft into wind slightly and work through the interactive checklist, which has 83 checks within it. The scenery here at Santos Dumont unfortunately has a reverse windsock, so you do have to forgive us for that. We'll position into wind as best as we can. Runway 02 in use today. And we'll set the thrust back to about 1000 RPM. Bring up the interactive checklists because we're still learning the aeroplane. And the run-up checks. Park brake set, enunciators test and consider. Down the bottom, like in the Bonanza, we want to activate that and have a little look around for any that then remain on as well. Remote compass slaved and aligned. Mixture is fully rich. Now it is. And then throttle goes to 1700 RPM. Making sure the brakes are holding. Exercise left propeller to a 300 RPM drop. There it is, and back up. Let it settle. And again, back up. Check left magneto, we want 150 RPM drop there. With the RPM settled, we're going to flick across twice. Watch the magnetos, the RPM drop. Reset back both. Let it stabilise, and we'll repeat the same with the other engine. Instrument air, green, no lights. Left alternator off, we want the illuminations now. Testing the various systems. Left alternator warning light has illuminated. Left alternator load is set to 0. And then the right alternator goes off. Warning light illuminates. Load goes to 0. Left alternator on, loads restored, annunciator is extinguished. Right alternator on, again the annunciator is extinguished and the load is restored. Prop heat on, looking at the loads. And the propeller amp here needs to be 20 to 25 amps, and it should cycle as it shows here. Again, this is it cycling now, so that's working nicely, and the propeller heat goes off. Cabin pressure and door seal pressurization modes on, and then we press and hold the test switch, and you can now see as well just behind the mixture levers observing a descent there too. Cabin pressurization system then goes to the first assigned altitudes. We're going to set, to be fair, we're only going to go to about 2,000–3,000 feet today. So I'm going to set that like so, and then the cabin pressure mode goes to dump. Door seal mode off. Okay, so here we go. Flaps are set for takeoff. All of our pre-takeoff checks are done and we've lined up on the runway. We're going to take off, fly away from Sugarloaf Mountain over the water. We're going to explore some of the features this add-on has to offer. So, brakes off, full throttle, away we go. Speed's alive, engine TSP's all in the green. A little bit of crosswind for us to fight with there. They've improved the aerodynamics drastically with this add-on. We are quite a bit of a crosswind actually there. We'll take off today. Positive rate gear up. A little bit of turbulence to contend with as well, but that's all fine. And then on the climb out. For that, we've turned the autopilot on. Going through 100 knots, we're going to make sure the flaps are reset to 0. And we can head round. Effectively back on ourselves, we want to fly away from the airport. So we're heading away now from the Rio de Janeiro VOR at the main international airport, and we're flying around the PPNDB, and you can see the magnetic instruments there working away. After takeoff, there are a number of different things you can select. So we can go to max continuous power, cabin heating as desired, prop to 2700 RPM, throttle fully open. So in this you're likely to be using the propeller, which are the blue levers, to manage climb power instead of throttle. En route climb, mixture stays on max power, prop goes to 2500 RPM, throttle 36 inches of mercury. Manifold pressure, which is there. We're levelling off at 3000 feet already though. If we were going to be going higher, we would be looking at the cabin pressurization system, and we'd be monitoring engine performance throughout, but we can flick through to cruise now. And we need to think about lean of prime or richer prime for leaning that mixture as well. For that, we're going to have a little look at the EDM 760. Similar system as that of the one inside the Beechcraft Bonanza. What we want to do is tap lean find, which is this button here, which will activate lean find mode. Effectively an engine leaning optimization feature in the aeroplane that will help us optimally lean the engine's mixture for the best power. So by clicking it now, it's activated, it's showing us lean ROP, which is rich of peak. There's a lot of information in the manuals about this, so all I would really suggest is actually having a little look at the manual in depth to make sure you can kind of try and set the aeroplane up as best as possible. One thing you might want to hear is the engine backfire, so I'm going to try and trigger one now as best as I can. There we are. So you can hear that backfire in the background there. And that's me not managing the aeroplane properly, or something going wrong with the engine causing a backfire. So these are things that are simulated in the aircraft. You might get a backfire by just cruising along and something will go wrong and the engine might start rough running. You'll have to then manage that using the emergency checklists. So let's turn back to the airfield. There's one other feature that's really cool that I want to show you guys. There's even more to discuss and have a look at, but of course we could be creating a video that would be hours and hours long, and we would have kind of addressed some of them, not even all of them at that point. So I'm kind of looking at the ones that are really exciting and you guys might want to sort of appreciate and enjoy. And the next one is going to be emergency gear extension down here. Now, depending on what happens in flight, you might have all of a sudden a problem which will result in you not having your landing gear able to be deployed. Thankfully, Black Square have thought of that, and they've also simulated, rather nicely, an emergency gear deployment system and a checklist for it as well. So amongst all the other things that could go wrong during the flight, landing gear manual extension could be one of those. And it can take a bit of a while, so we need to prep the aeroplane accordingly. First, we're going to deal with descent. So we're going to step from 3,000 to 2,000 feet or 1,500 feet. We need to set our cabin pressure back down here on the bottom to sea level. Even though we've not really pressurised the cabin all that much, you can see that little change there is just helping to depressurise the cabin already in front of the mixture lever, having reset that to sea level again. Our destination altitude. Cowl flaps closed, throttle reduce, mixture enriching, and we're going to go down to 1,500 feet. Now with our speed reducing through 150 knots, that's good, that's what we want. We need to follow this landing gear manual extension checklist. So, landing gear relay down here in the circuit breakers gets pulled. The landing gear knob goes down to the down position and we get the warning light for the gear being in transit. However, because the gear's failed, / we've isolated the system, the landing gear hasn't deployed, so we need to manually crank it using the emergency control lever. With that down here, we need to open the handle and begin to crank it for 50 turns. So with a couple of turns you can see we're slowly extending the landing gear. We've got to keep going all the way through to 50 to guarantee that it is locked. All the while we're still flying, still making quick progress towards our destination. You've got to keep rotating it 50 turns or as far as possible. What you'll find now, at 50, it doesn't go anymore. So we can stow that, go back down to here, we can see that we've got gear down, 3 green and locked in place. That's good. Then we can work through our approach check. So seats and seatbelts secure. We've checked the cabin pressurization system and we've got no fuel balance. We don't need to tip transfer. Landing lights go on. Pitot heat stay off at the moment. It's fine. Windshield heat is off. Prop heat off. Air conditioning goes off. Cowl flaps as required. We'll open them for now. Quite hot here at Rio de Janeiro at the moment. And we've checked mixtures fully RICS for max power. Flaps set to approach. We're going to pop the autopilot off now. And we're going to continue down through to 1,000 feet in the bay, round Sugarloaf Mountain for an arrival. Back into Santos Dumont. So, flaps all within the green arc. We're heading around Sugarloaf Mountain at the moment to commit our approach in. It's a remarkable part of the world to fly around if you aren't already familiar with it. Gear indications are good, so we're going to continue our descent. Some incredible turbulence and wind shear over that little bit of terrain around the mountain there. We're going to land on the smaller of the two runways, 02 left. And again, I think we've got a fair bit of a crosswind to contend with today for the arrival. Speed's good, and the profile's good, engine TCPs are good. And we are down. Trying to get back on that centre line gently, fighting the crosswind. And then we will brake to vacate. So 10 checks after landing for us. What we can do is open up the window just to assist with some air. Bring the flaps up. Cabin altitude down here for pressurization system. Verify it's on 0. Cabin pressure mode can go to dump. Door seal mode off. Weather radar can go off and standby. One thing that we've not really discussed is the global failure rates, the random schedule failures, the active failures. These are something that we're familiar with, those of us who already use the black square add-ons in MSFS, but within the Bendix RDR1150XL, if you go to log, you can increase or decrease the failure rate. You can either go to scheduled or random failures. If you have an active failure, you can reset it in here, and you can also manually tweak all of the different failures to amend the hours of which they may be triggered. And then if you want to go back to default, you can reset defaults. In nav, you can see the engine conditions, so we were abusing them in flight a little bit, causing a backfire. That has somewhat sort of caused a little bit of damage to the engine, so our condition of the engines has decreased from 100%, so a little bit there too. To repair them both, you can click the repair buttons there, and if you're flying along in pressurized cabin for a long time, depending on how many people you have on board, how long your flight is, and how high you're flying, i.e. how much oxygen you need, you will find that the oxygen system will deplete a little bit as well. So you can just refill the oxygen tank there and reset all failures in one button. One thing I did want to show you by fast forwarding the time forwards a little bit is the flood lighting and the lighting inside the aeroplane. There your panel flood, and that's your panel illumination. That's a really nice set of lights as well, actually, quite spectacular. They've done a great job with the product itself. With all that done, all we need to do is taxi back to stand or our parking area and shut down the aeroplane, ready for the next journey, or indeed fill it up for the next leg. Hope you guys have found the video useful. The links to the Black Square Beechcraft Baron for Microsoft Flight Simulator will be in the description down below, and you'll be able to purchase it very soon from the JustFlight website. Hit like and subscribe if you've enjoyed today's video. Share your thoughts down in the comments below, and I hope to see you join me in a live stream in the very near future. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.